Hello, I'm Dave, co-founder of Social Shifters. This is the Social Shifters podcast. In this podcast, I'll be speaking to incredible young people from all over the world, leaders, innovators, entrepreneurs, all tackling social and environmental issues that matter to them most. Listen in to hear top tips from some of the most incredible young minds on the planet. Guys, hello. Thank you for joining me today in the Social Shifters podcast. It's fantastic to have you here. We have the winners of our Gilead Health Equity Challenge, the co-founders of a project called Spacefelt. It's great to have you here. And we're going to kind of dive into your concept and your project and the issue that you're tackling, and talk a little bit more about that and how it all works. And we'll dive also into kind of the future for Spacefelt and where that project is going to go, hopefully with your winnings over the next few months. So but let's start with you guys and the Spacefelt project. Can you tell us what is your innovative idea? What is the issue that you're looking to tackle?
So Spacefelt as such is an QR code based technology. So it's basically an app-based application, and we provide where any visually impaired can scan the QR code with the app, and they can label record it for the very first time, and the next time when they scan it again, then they can hear back the description of whatever it's recorded. So why exactly we are here is because we found many of the visually impaired has a problem in identifying their day-to-day things. So we have a very in-depth personal story coming from Viprasad Institute in Hyderabad for a couple of years. And I think Niveda would be a better person to share about how we came up with it. But this is the problem we are looking forward to solve, the identifying the day-to-day things around, whether it's coming to the kitchenware or the medicines or the clothes. It might be easy for us to imagine just picking up the things, right? Because it's just like we can read the cosmetics or the labels easily, or we identify with the certain cues. But just imagine when the world seems, you have to just pick up the things just by the touch, and it becomes often a struggle when it's like everything feels similar. Like clothes, all the shirts look similar, and even when it comes to the cosmetics, your face wash might find it similar as your sunscreen. So how do you differentiate? So one of the things which we found which they do is they organize really very well, but imagine how much of the memories goes into them and really remembering where each one of it is. And even if just one another, they'll have a tough time figuring out, and often it might go as little embarrassed moments of not picking up. It's fine enough for the few things, but it can go with the medicines or even the kitchen items, the food items. So that's where we have seen the importance of some labeling solution which has to be there.
Great. So this is a new type of labeling for those people who are visually impaired, and it's for all product types. You mentioned medications. You also sort of talked about garments and clothing. So is this a labeling system that can be applied to any product?
Yeah, it's you name it, you pick it. So it's actually we now, rather than we define the product types, we have seen the users coming up with their own things. It just we give a booklet of labels to them. This is how we work. Along with an application, this booklet would have 108 labels, and it's up to them. Whatever they want, they can label it. So the user can, the very first time, the user can just peel the label, label it on. Here I have a this is a bottle of, this is it's actually a bottle of medicine, and I just labeled it. And it's up to the user to define what they want in description too. So it can go language agnostic because it's just an audio description. and the duration or anything can be just set by the user. It just works like, how we send the WhatsApp message, voice messages. And yeah, that's the best thing. So it doesn't have any character limit, which often happens with the other solutions which you find in the market. So this we have found the so many innovative use cases too. We have, like, one of our customers have used it for house shifting. She has labeled all her cartons and like which carton has what are the items in it. And yeah, so it's just like we find it little, surprised to see our customers coming with the different use cases on there. And so it's open, like whatever you want to label it and identify.
It's an incredibly simple concept, but then so many of the best ideas are incredibly simple. So this is a correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a self-labeling system. So once you have purchased the product, whether it be a medicine or something in your fridge, potentially some milk, some food, a clothing garment, somebody with visual impairment can create a physical label which is attached to the product, but they can then link that physical label with a barcode or a QR code that's in the app, and the descriptions are audio. They're recorded by the person doing the labeling. And you guys you've designed and built the apps. The app is ready and functional.
Yes, and
yes, it is functional,
and it's free to use. Only the labeling booklet is for that one minimal cost.
Okay, so this is in market. People can download this app right now, but they need to contact you about the brochure. Is that right?
so the app is free and free to download from the Play Store. So this is the user interface of the app. It's like a very high contrast. If someone has a low vision, they can easily go through it and navigate. So I'm just scanning the. So you might be wondering how a visually impaired uses a smartphone. So whatever I'm doing on screen, you can hear. Yeah. So that's how they use the smartphone. So I'm pointing to the QR code.
All public tag detected. Thyroid norm 25 mcg. This is for thyroid medication. It has to be taken in the morning, immediately after waking up.
Really simple. So, I mean, a lot of people probably won't know that smartphones have a lot of kind of accessibility technology in them. So
Right.
imagine your app and your product makes use of those accessibility features. Is that right?
Exactly. So that's where we tapped in, I guess. I mean, so that's comes with Niveda's experience also. She's been optometrist for several years, and she has seen how the assistive technology works and how people are getting trained a lot on smartphones, because that is just becoming a way forward for them to get placed in, or get employed somewhere. So that's why we thought technology or something else coming up. Why not just use the smartphone, because they're very, very comfortable using it and they're really quick. I mean, you might be observing that I'm doing it at a slow pace, but hearing back and interacting with the phone, the whole audio thing, it just goes very quickly when it comes to a visually impaired person. So they're very well equipped with it. So that's why we wanted to get it as an app itself, because it becomes very easy for the user and to use it also. And again, when it comes to the QR code technology, it's quite affordable. It's like so we sell this booklet of 100 labels for at a very affordable technology in India, which comes down the cost of, like, compared to the other technology, it's 5 times less than the existing ones.
Yeah, look, I think that's why the judges were so impressed with the concept in the Social Shifters Global Innovation Challenge, because you're making use of an established technology, a really powerful but established technology in smartphones. And smartphones are becoming more and more affordable, more and more accessible globally. Yeah, you've essentially unlocked the kind of the power in a smartphone for a very particular application. And so, yeah, a lot of people will be interested, I think, in how a visually impaired person uses a smartphone, things like high contrast colors that you've used in your app, and all of these sort of audio descriptions that come as part of how to use the interface and use the various features. So yeah, really, really smart, really innovative thinking that you've used there to come up with a Spacefelt project. It sounds like the two of you know a lot about this issue, and I guess the next obvious question is, why the two of you and this project team, and why this project? Why is this particular issue important to the two of you? And what is the scale of the problem where you are in the world?
So I had the privilege to work as an optometrist at the LV Prasad Eye Institute, India. So there I got to see many patients with a very wide range of eye conditions. So while it gives immense happiness when the patient can see clearly, the journey wasn't always very smooth. Okay, so many conditions weren't have a good prognosis. So in that case, the only option was to make use of the assistive technologies. And moreover, it was there in our hospital, I met Aishwarya, who's a visually impaired person. She's a rehab counselor and also a great tactile artist. Okay, so we stayed together, and she was my roommate. So I could see the day-to-day challenges she faced, from the simple task of picking and matching her clothes, for identifying her medicines, and for identifying the kitchen containers. So she needed my help for even small things. So it was easy when I was around, but when I had to travel somewhere, it was quite very difficult for her to manage alone. So that's when I thought about it. So as I mentioned, as an optometrist, I have seen even many patients with a similar condition. So I thought and Aishwarya is just one among the 71 million people with visual impairment around the world. So I thought that something might be very useful, a simple and some affordable solution should be done, because the available ones are not very affordable and also not easily accessible, because in developing countries like India, we have to import it from other countries. So just while talking with Pratyusha, she was a volunteer in the same hospital. So even she had the passion to do something for people with disabilities. So then we thought of a simple solution, yet effective one. So that's how we developed Spacefelt.
Yeah, incredible story. And in India and in the part of India where you live, is this a widespread problem? You obviously came into contact with one person who you could see day to day was struggling, and have those conversations. But did you discover in your process, in your research, that this is actually a widespread problem that many people face?
Yeah. So we might wonder, Braille is the most common literacy option for visually impaired. So why not use the Braille labels? But the fact is, only about 1% of the population in India among the visually impaired knows to read Braille. And even globally, it's just only 10%. So it's not very common that people read Braille. So it's and even the other available options are not very affordable. The RFID readers and NFC ones, they're quite expensive. So that's when we thought about a simple solution, so that anyone can use it, even a person might be educated or not. So that should not be a constraint.
Great. So yes, obviously quite a widespread problem, and maybe not something that's been innovated on, globally. Globally speaking, Braille is a very old concept and was developed in a different time, way before certainly way before smartphones, but even before computers, I'd imagine. I don't know how far back Braille dates, but you've innovated on the idea of Braille using modern technologies and accessible technologies. So how did you get from, okay, well, there's this old Braille kind of solution that very few people can use, to this kind of app and labeling QR code solution? And did you involve partially sighted people in the process? What did you learn in the process?
We have been with those visually impaired people for a very long time. So, and as I said, I had my roommate, so it was like very easy to understand, and I was just wondering like how we sighted people use labels very commonly. So from reading the cosmetics to the labels from kitchen containers or packets which we purchase. So it's quite very important and needed among us. So the same applies to them as well. So just so this was the thought that was going in mind. So, and as I said, Aishwarya, she's also a tactile artist. So when she used to paint her drawings, she needed help of some sighted person to know the colors. Okay, so that's when I thought, what if simple labeling can help her to independently do her work? So that's how we ended up. And also we piloted this idea among visually impaired people in the hospital. So that's how we thought that this is a very effective and useful solution.
David, just to add to that, so you asked like from Braille to this technology, right? So that's comes again from Aishwarya, as like she is a really good friend of all of us, and how she keeps her occupied with so she does a sculptured art, as she was saying, but she turned late blind. I mean, she lost her sight at the age of 21 years. So she never had a chance to learn Braille. It just became difficult for her. She tried, but she's a very slow reader. And we found that with many of the many of the users too. Like Braille, definitely we say it's not completely replaceable, because those who are born blind, the schooling majorly happens in the visually impaired schools, and there they would get a chance to learn Braille. But what about the people who turn late blind? And also there are because the reading is becoming difficult. It's little slower compared to listening to audiobook. So they are learning in both the modes. So of course, like when we are given option to swipe through the phone, or just ask Siri, help me with so and so, that becomes easier, right? So I like that's what we are relying a lot on technology, because it just becomes easier. And the same thing is going with the partially sighted. So how partially sighted typically uses something is they magnify things. I mean, when using a phone, they magnify everything which they are reading, and they have the magnifiers being used when they typically read the hardbound books and all. But that's the same thing. I mean, when it comes to identifying subtle things, for example, medicines, the labels are very subtly written, they're very small. So rather than they looking for a magnifier and reading it, definitely this becomes an easier option. Just you scan it and reads out all the information out there. And what's like though we are just right now limiting ourselves to piloting with the visually impaired, we are already having the excitement being seen from the elderly, because definitely with the aging that you have a certain level of visually impaired, like the eyes functioning would be declared. Sorry, you'll have the issues with the eyesight and all. So that's where we have seen, and even they tend to forget. Like when I explained about the medicine in the demo before, I mentioned that you have to take it in the morning, so that doesn't often happen. So I've seen with my father itself. I have to remind him this is the different medicine, that's the different medicine. So that use case becomes very easy. Then you can just scan it and again hear it back. Okay, this is for morning. Okay, this is for evening. So
Well,
yeah,
it's
that's
funny that you say that, because the very first thing I thought of when you were showing me how it works was my father. And he's at the age, of course, where he's needing various pills and medications, and he's constantly leaving his, he has little boxes for pills, but he's constantly forgetting, and his sight is going. And so I think you're touching on something important here, which is, we when we're talking about Braille and solutions for people who are blind or and born blind, that tends to be how we might stigmatize this issue of visual impairment. But of course, there are people like your friend, your flatmate, who don't start off life visually impaired, but some are in their teens, some are in their 20s, or adult life, they develop a visual impairment that can become blindness or become just stay as a serious visual impairment. And then you've also got elderly people who gradually become more visually impaired. So there's all kinds of uses and applications for this. And it's what makes it such a powerful concept. So you've obviously, on the team, you've obviously got a trained optometrist, which lends itself in very obvious ways to this project. What other people and skills do you have then in this team? And what came together to make this happen?
Right. So ours is a very diverse and interesting team. Niveda met me and another person. We have another tech guy on the team. So we both were volunteering at LV Prasad Anshut, the same hospital where she was working. So it became easier for us to understand the problem also, because we were teaching them English and some tech too, and we know them later very closely. Then when she came up with the problem in particular, then we realized, oh yeah, this is actually existing and it can go, like we started iterating about it. So when it comes to the technology development, our friend Vivian takes care of it. Like he's there looking at he was the one who was trying to look at the different modes of app development, and we are going back to the community. And again, Aishwarya was right there from the day when we were eating her brain. She was acting as our advisor. So we were testing each and everything very closely with her. Then when she agrees, then we used to go for the pilot. And other than that, so I was there keenly involving. I just joined in this project right after my master's. So my interest I come from a biotechnology background. So my interest often involved how they adapt to the environment, like how your brain adapts after you lose one particular sense. So that's where I was a lot into research, and I got into this pilot program, how to design that, and like how do you test the product. And of course, it wasn't just with four of us. We had a very good support coming from our mentors. Like we have a advisory team where the mentors have an experience of around 25 years coming from the rehabilitation side. They particularly worked with visually impaired, and so they know it in and out. Like we had many versions of the product. It's not just coming from the user end. The sensitization and all was very well advised from our mentors. Like they gave us the different scenarios. They just helped us be there in the ground and made it happen.
Yeah, and look, for me, this is what is so inspiring to kind of hear about when I speak with people like you running projects like this. You've got a group of specialists or specialisms coming together from different fields. You have a health professionals, technology professionals. It sounds like there was some teaching disciplines, but you were all coming together through volunteering and through a shared passion. And that is often how these projects are born. They're born of different people and skill sets and mindsets coming together to tackle a common cause. And that is, for me, what's so powerful, because anywhere in the world people can do this, and there's a way to come together to tackle issues that are important to us personally, as groups of individuals with different backgrounds and different specialisms. So it's always interesting to hear that, and how you all connected and made this happen. I'd like to think, hopefully, Social Shifters has been, or maybe will prove to be, an important step in your journey. And I just wondered if we could touch on that for a minute. Was how was the Global Innovation Challenge as a program for you, and coming out as a winner? What does that mean for you now?
It was definitely quite lovely. I mean, so something where like we often we're looking for a platform to showcase ourselves, not just that, and there wasn't anything where people could understand it of, like, the impact when we compete with the mainstream entrepreneurs. Often our idea gets lost. So when there is some platform like Social Shifters, where you're keenly looking at the companies working for the social impact, that's where we felt it became very interesting to us. And it was really exciting in the whole journey process, because we learned how to pitch the whole narration, how the storytelling coming from the our mentors, both Brad and Craig, were like really helpful for us. There we had a continuous sessions, and they were very it was a lot of fun to work with them too, because it was very easygoing. But we have seen how we changed from our first call to the very last call. And what was even more interesting is our communication with the shifters itself. The whole team was very cooperative. So whenever we had any trouble or the doubts, they were there, right there, answering our calls. So that's something which we learned, and we started incorporating in our company also. It's I really mean it, because seeing people taking time, and often when our calls are going unanswered, we just lose the hope of reaching out to people. But this is something which I picked up with Social Shifters. It just felt good, being there in the communication. It just feels, oh, they're there to help us out there at any point of time. So that sort of confidence, I felt that's something which we need to incorporate in a company and give it to our customers too. So that's one thing which I definitely learned from Shifters.
Oh, good to hear. And you're now part of the Social Shifters community, so we do hope that you'll stay as part of the community, and that you'll come back and enter more competition, maybe even be the people sometimes to help others in the community. You're going to be the people that other projects look up to. Now when they come into the competition, you're going to be the kind of the case study examples.
Thank you. And I just have another thing to add on. So again, coming to the pitching, it again runs on different metrics when it comes to companies, like something like a food delivery app or something. They have numbers working differently. But when it comes to the social impact sector, it goes way different. And we initially had a tough time to learn all that. But when I came across Social Shifters and those less like the courses which you offer and all the content which you have on your website was really helpful in terms of measuring our impact metrics and all. So that's really a huge help coming from across there.
What is next for you guys? You've come out with a win. We'll have a bit of funding coming your way to take those next steps. But what's next, and where do you want to go? Where do you want to take this? What's your vision for the project?
As we were discussing, it was more on the personal side, but the recent project we started is, again, we found the use case coming from the LV Prasad Institute, where Niveda and we us all were working for even the piloting. So we found one huge problem is any visually impaired walking into the institute. are struggling to get an orientation of the washroom. The rest of the places, they're very well like they have a good they're very well there with the in terms of accessibility. They have the tactile tiles laid, and even the railings are pretty good enough in navigating. But when it comes to the washrooms, yeah, this is often neglected. But imagine a visually impaired walking in, because any caregiver will just leave them at the door of the washroom, and they have to figure out the orientation of the toilet seat, and where is the wash area, where is the tap, and all that stuff. So that's where, like, one of our user has asked whether why can this label go on the door and give us an orientation of the washroom. That is came across 6 months ago, and we installed on the washrooms. And to the bank, like, yeah, again, Aishwarya and I had planned those complete the pilot of it, and we have looked at the user cases and took the feedback from the users how it is going on, and many of them really loved it. So that's where we are looking a way forward. I mean, every use, the public place, in even many of the corporate companies, we see the inclusion and diversity is becoming a policy for many places, and we have people who are getting employed who are disabled. But how accessible is their place is the question, right? So that's where we feel that we can come in and help you make your place more accessible, right from someone entering at the door, and we help them navigate in terms of installing QR codes here and there, giving them the directions and orienting the rooms. How's the conference room, and again, how's the washroom, like where is the so and so play, like, the wash area or something. We just install description, give them the orientation. It will definitely make the life of a visually impaired much more easier, because what we have observed is, rather than the employment in terms of the the financial independence which you are getting, the feeling that they are independent, not relying on colleague or anything, does give them a huge boost of confidence, and that really matters a lot. So we wish to see Spacefelt randomly at various public places, like when we walked into some restaurant or anywhere. We wish to see the place made accessible in terms for visually impaired. So that's where we want to head towards.
Yeah, I mean, you can almost envisage like limitless uses for this product. Really, I mean, I'm thinking about hotels. Hotels and large hotel chains have an obligation to make their rooms and facilities accessible, and then obviously public toilets and all sorts of public spaces. So yeah, really, really exciting to hear about all the potential avenues you could take, and we really hope that this is the start that you need to really to launch this and grow it quickly. Just to wrap things up, I like to ask people who've come through the program and come out as a winner in one of the challenges. You've achieved a level of success here. I'm sure you'll go on to achieve other levels of success, but you have reached hopefully a milestone in your journey. So if you could think back a year ago or maybe 2 years ago, is there a piece of advice that you might have given your former self, knowing what you know now?
Just if you have an idea and if you think like it's very much needed, just go about it. Try to execute it. Don't think if somebody else is also doing the same, or if this is a very simple idea, how will it work and how it will pitch up. We need not think much. Just try to execute it. The process is very important, I guess.
So coming from my end, I think I would talk from a scenario coming from a developing country. I think many of the youngsters would have this pressure of get their life sorted as soon as possible, and so this meant you might have to tackle the confusion of taking a decision of getting the start or getting into a safe and secure place of working somewhere. I feel that initially after taking this decision, it may not feel that everything is sorted. Sometimes you have days where you doubt, where you feel that, okay, you don't know where you are and all that stuff. But I would just ask the people to be patient, because we had moments of joy when people came back to us and have seen the use cases at the various, like, as I was saying, we didn't even think of it and they started using it for some other products. So that's like when we see that they're just innovating and loving the product, that that just answers your, like, the basic questions of why your decision or not. Yeah. So yeah, just be patient and you'll definitely see the things coming up.
Yeah, I think that's also good advice. Two
Yeah.
really good bits of advice about having patience, perseverance to see things through. And I'm sure having a team of you working together on something that you're truly passionate about, helped you to get through those difficult moments. So, guys, I'm going to wrap things up there. I want to say thank you very much for joining me today. Congratulations on your win. And it's been great to have you on the Social Shifters podcast today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, David. And it was had fun to have you too. I love this time.
If you want to learn more about Social Shifters and how we can help you to impact the social or environmental issues that matter to you most, subscribe to our YouTube channel or find us on Instagram and Spotify.